I'm Katie Kempner, and welcome to Perspectives here at Advertising Week on the Huffington Post stage. Perspectives is a series of inspiring conversations with remarkable working women who are balancing busy lives. And right now, I am lucky to talk with Janet Brown, who is the CEO of Filmbuff. Welcome.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So why don't we just jump in and talk a little bit about what Filmbuff is, because I love the name.
Thank you. Thank you. So we distribute awesome content, and we focus on doing that online. So we basically look around the world for what is amazing entertainment content and then bring it out to a network of entertainment sites. So we will provide content to iTunes, to Amazon, Comcast, Verizon, Netflix, Hulu, you name it. And that world is changing so rapidly right now. We're basically acting as a matchmaker between awesome content and awesome platforms to help make sure stories reach their audience.
All of these industries are fast. What you're talking about is something that's changing so rapidly. How are you able to stay on top of it?
Have a great team. And I think the greatest thing is always being incredibly open-minded. Like, it's very difficult to always know it yourself. We find that through great relationships with our partners, through like talking to Condé Nast or talking to iTunes and talking with Netflix and understanding what they're seeing and bringing that back and understanding how they're innovating, and also at the same time talking to producers, so all the filmmakers and the people making content, together with a great team at the Nexus, which is, you know, what the Filmbuff team is doing. You're really kind of having tentacles out into the changing world and can kind of bring that back in, make sense of it, and put that information to use for both sides.
And now I know you're also a relatively new mother.
I am,
right?
I am. 13 months in, yes.
13 months in.
Not that I'm counting.
Right. You're not counting, but you are breastfeeding.
I am. So for that respect, I am counting. I think that is the cost or the downside or the benefit of living in Brooklyn. But it has been an amazing experience. And I have to say, as someone who's spent a lot of time on mommy blogs, I feel very fortunate for the freedom that running my own company allows in terms of being able to sort of balance that kind of thing a little bit more easily. Some people on the blogs were like, I wish my office had walls. I was like, I at least don't have that problem. Yeah, so.
You do have your own company. You're very lucky about that because you can breastfeed where there are walls. But what are some of the ways for the women that work with you that you're able to create, and the men too really, that you're able to create an environment where people are able to balance their lives?
I think, Reed Hastings is proving himself to be a great man in many respects. But one of the great things that he's done in terms of the culture at Netflix is kind of this freedom and responsibility ethos, where instead of kind of dictating hours and dictating anything else, it's like, or vacation days or anything, I leave it up to the person. So do whatever you want. If you want to work on Sunday and be home on Wednesday or whatever works for you, within certain parameters, you have to trust your team. And so trusting people with time is the first element.
Now, I've found over the course of interviewing all the women that I've interviewed that they've really fallen into different categories when it comes to technology and what you're talking about in terms of do it whatever works for you. There are some women that say, okay, I turn off, at dinner time, or I turn off on the weekend. Other people say, like, I'm never off because I can't be off. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, we are in the business of distributing content on demand. And the great thing about distributing content on demand is that for the consumer, as soon as you press play, the content is right there. Right. The little known secret behind it is that getting it from the place of being produced to being ready to be on demand is a much longer process that involves all sorts of things. And a lot of that is incredibly time sensitive. So if we're launching a film, whether we're working with a traditional filmmaker or whether we're working with a brand, which we're increasingly doing, there's a definite launch date and there's timing. And maybe the brand has a campaign link to it, or maybe there's other press. Like, you cannot miss that day. And so since we're in digital, things can go wrong. Metadata can be wrong, posters can be wrong, all these little things which could happen at any hour of the day and threaten what's happening. So unfortunately, we do need to pay attention 7 days a week. But it is sort of a low burner, constant attention, as opposed to sort of a low burner always helps prevent fire drills on, say, Sunday morning at a bad time.
So right. So if you're always sort of on this low burner, and I would say I am too, because you never know what's
You never
going
know.
on,
Yeah.
and you really never check out.
Yeah.
I never, at least I never really check out. It sounds like you don't either. What do you do to decompress or for yourself? Because everybody needs that.
The time, so I think one of the things is the time that you take as your dinner time or your personal time is sacred, so I put my phone away. The other thing I do is I'm very big on scheduling. Mm-hmm. So even in the workday, if there's meetings, I also schedule things that have to get done, and I also schedule personal all the way through. So it's actually time blocked out, which is, I think, the one way, I don't know if it's a secret, but it's the one way I'm able to have the balance, literally scheduling everything so that it's the time is carved out. Because I find if you make loose plans or even anything, it's oh yeah, I'll see you then, and it never happens. Just life trespasses in. So I always kind of preserve the time, and whatever the time is for, that's what it's for.
So you're an entrepreneur, you have your own company.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that it really applies especially to women who want to be entrepreneurs or who feel that they are entrepreneurs?
The scheduling piece is one of them that I would use just to make sure that you're able to balance. I think sorting out, in my case, childcare, making sure you have that plan in place, and in the end, keeping an open mind. In the first 6 months, I thought I had a plan, but the nanny fell through. So I ended up bringing Lucan into the office some days, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. It ended up being amazing. It really helped with culture and morale, and everybody was excited, and it was fun. So you end up sort of, I don't know whether it's making lemonade out of lemon. So you make a plan, but you have to be very flexible when it kind of doesn't go quite according to plan. But I do think in terms of just having a schedule where I literally have date night on the calendar. I have a babysitter who's booked every other week to come for date night. It's just booked, standing. So and sometimes it's we're so last minute. It's what are we going to do? I don't know. But at least the time is booked.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things I've found helpful.
So my final question, just to build on advice, is do you have any one piece of advice that has really helped you guide you through your career that you can share with us?
I used to live in London for a long time, which is a great city, and I constantly joke about trying to do that again. But New York is also fantastic. But I remember I was strategy consulting at the time, and I was trying to figure out how do you go from being a strategy consultant in London to doing independent film in the States, and that seemed like a big place to cross. And I remember going to a guy who was working at Channel 4 in the UK at the time, and I sort of had a number of mentors I was talking to, and he's like, wherever you want to be in 5 years, you need to be in that place now. So at that time, I was like, well, hold on, I'm strategy consulting. And he's like, well, you're never going to be where you want to be in 5 years because you're not doing that now. So you need to, you have to force the change to happen. Mm-hmm. So I took that advice and I'm how can I put this to use for myself? I was like, well, I have to get to the right country because I'm never going to meet the right companies and meet the right people if I'm sitting in the wrong country. So in my case, I ended up enrolling for an MBA and going to Columbia, which put me in New York. It was the only school I applied to because I knew I had to be in New York if I wanted to do independent film. And it worked out. In each case, but I was like, I must take decisive action to bite off what I can bite off and do it, and that for me has always been incredibly helpful.
Well, that's terrific advice. It's working.
It's working. It's working.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.